G'day. So last night I was doing a video just in the garage. It was just going to be a quick one for the Patreon channel, nothing major. And I started realizing about the carb cap that had been used for transferring the Jedi juice, 2 batches actually, and I knew that I had hops clogging in one of these carbonation caps. I thought, I've got to try and get it out. Normally I just flush it out, like reverse flush, hook up a quick disconnect and flush it out that way, and it's usually pretty good. But this was clogged. I sort of tried to have a look and it sort of looked clean. And then I pulled it apart. I ended up cleaning it last night, but I didn't video it all. So what I thought I'd do, I'll show you what it looked like. It was chock-a-block full of hops. Have a look at that. This isn't a setup. So I started by taking that tail piece out, and that just simply unscrews normally, anti-clockwise, and that comes out like that. Now there was a bunch of hops stuck in there, as you might see in the other footage. Yeah, there's a little circlip down the bottom there. Now, I knew I'd probably be able to get it out. I didn't know if I'd be able to get it back in. So I was mucking around with some alligator nose pliers. Now I managed accidentally, while I was just fiddling around seeing if I could get a hold of the circlip with these, and it came out. That's when I stopped videoing and went, what am I going to do? What if I can't get it back together? I eventually did get it back together, and it was actually quite easy. But anyway, in that circlip you can see there's a piece that you can push together with the long nose plier. I'm not going to be able to show you this on camera, and it can pull out carefully. I've dislodged it there. That's the circlip there, and of course that upper where it's not joined are the 2 bits I squeezed together to get it out. After that it just sort of falls apart. You might have to push in, there's a little spring in there, sometimes it just doesn't pop out straight away. So this one seems to be stuck in the thread a bit. That bit comes out, and the spring. And then this little bit, the poppet. Now I've had this particular one for years. This is the one I did the video way back in 2014 when they first come out. And I haven't done this before to this. But it's been used in different ways. This was just used to keg, to bottle beers from the keg and things like that, and for cleaning. It's never been used to transfer directly out of a fermenter full of hops floating around. Now the question was then, how, it's easy to give it a clean. I don't have to show that. Rinse, clean. It's how you get it back together. It ended up being quite simple. There's your poppet and the spring. Of course, they go in first. Then you have to line up this little piece, and of course the middle pole on that poppet has to go through the center. You're about to see me do this, my fat fingers will be in the way. Not too hard. Like that. Now I just carefully place the circlip just over the top like that. And what I found was I had this old piece of, I was wondering what I could use, a piece of pipe or something to try and push it down. I just got this old bit of line that I had laying around. I'm not sure if the new softer EVA will do this, it probably will. But this is just an old piece of line. And so what I did was I just sort of even pressure around there and just sort of wiggled it. And this one's not going in. Yes it is, it started to go in. Just be careful it doesn't shoot off somewhere. You can help it a little bit if one of the bits doesn't look like it's going into the thread. Put that over in the middle of it and just push. You give it a wiggle until you sort of feel it click in place like that. Did you hear that click? It's still not quite in place properly, but it just about is. I don't know if you can tell, one side of the circlip's up, so I'll try and just sort of push that side of the circlip down again using this. There was another click, and once you're sort of there, I think I'm nearly there. I just can use something a bit more sturdier to push it down, or I was using this steel chopstick. It was just a bit blunter. Wasn't going to scratch things and that. And just try and make sure it's pushed down into place. Of course, this one seems to be a bit of a pain. The one last night went in easy. Still doesn't quite look like it's sitting in there on one side there. You can also sometimes, like I can use this knife and sort of twist it round. And when I did that just then, it seemed to seat right into place now. The one last night just clicked straight in when I pushed down. That one I just had to give a little bit of a wiggle. And we're seated back into place. So it is possible. And I'll put this back in because I had the problems last night. But that might have just been, it might have just been the seal. Might not have had anything to do with this. Might have been the stretch seal I had. And there we go. Now whenever you do this, do it somewhere that, you know, if the spring goes flying, you can find it. Other than that, if you need to do it, you can. The seals have been giving me a real pain everywhere in the Fermzilla. God, everywhere I've had to use a seal lately, I've been having some issues. Most of the time I don't, but just lately it's just one of those things that I've been having a bit of a pain with. One thing I did do last night which caused me a bit of grief was I took out the seal in there. And it was like it was stretched a little bit and I couldn't quite get it to fit in there properly. And I tried and I tried and I kept getting a leak, and I didn't put this back in. I thought, oh, this is going to be my gas post, so I won't need this for the beer line for pickup tube. And I kept trying to do it up, and it kept dislodging. The washer kept coming out of place and I couldn't get a seal. So in the end, I don't know if it actually did anything. I put the seal in some boiling water, just to tip some boiling water out of the kettle, left it there for a few minutes and then put it under cold water. And sometimes things sort of go back into shape if you do that. And I managed to squeeze it back in. And I put this back in this time. And funnily enough, I don't know if that helps stop the washer from dislodging or not, or it was just the hot water treatment on the seal. It went back in, and I had to nudge it up a little bit, but I went back in. It's sealed now, and the fermenter working good and proper. So I can just see this being a problem for some people if they're not careful about their hops, or I had another issue. That's another video for another day. And I was sort of shaking the fermenter to get the ball to fall into place. I found out I had a split hose, but that was my fault. So besides all that, it's just good to know that you can take them apart if you need to, and you can get them back together. So I hope that helps somebody, and cheers.